Hello, welcome to Pop Culture Maniacs podcast. As usual, it's me, Kieran, and with me, Gene, our TV editor, and we are going to be talking about the release from Warner Brothers, the Suicide Squad. And so, obviously, Gene, you just before we start recording, you were telling me you've seen it. I'm guessing you saw it on HBO Max.
Yes, I did.
Yes, and I saw it at the cinema last weekend. So I got to see it in full cinematic glory, and I'm sure
I saw it on a computer screen. So.
Yes, I'm sure we will get to that. Have a discussion on its distribution. But let's first talk about the film itself. So, basic plot synopsis: a group of D-list villains from the DC universe are pretty much strong-armed into taking part in a secret mission to destroy a secret facility on the island of Costa Maltese. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that is correct.
Yeah, cool. On the island of Costa Maltese, and obviously action and hilarity ensues. So obviously, with this film, they made a bit. Warner Brothers made a big effort of getting James Gunn involved, because essentially they tried to make the original Suicide Squad film as a basically Guardians of the Galaxy knockoff. So they thought you may as well get the guy who actually made the Guardians of the Galaxy films for the sequel, requel, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, they I mean, as someone who could barely make it through 1/2 hour of Suicide Squad, I was very excited that they got James Gunn to take over the reins, since I mean, it's not a direct correlation between Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad, but he definitely has the right makings as a director to understand the nuance and the fun that comes with the Suicide Squad that was missing from the first film, for sure.
Yeah, I would say with the thing with the because obviously there's the two conflicting visions with the original, because Warner Brothers wanted big fun film, and what David Ayer is sort of more known for gritty dramas, and he was making a really dark drama. Hence that first trailer that was released of Suicide Squad was really dark and moody.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know how much you followed the social media David Ayer's since Suicide Squad came out, but he definitely has this opinion that the version he made was vastly different than the version Warner Brothers made him put out, and he's since distanced himself and disavowed that film. And there's a lot of drama circling around what his actual vision was compared to what we got for that.
Yes, because as we know, we've gone from release the Snyder cut to release the Ayer cut.
Yep.
See if Warner Brothers will cave again.
I highly doubt it, considering the reviews I've heard from just regular folks and reviews from critics were much kinder to this version of the Suicide Squad. So I think they'd rather forget there ever was one before.
Yeah. Though when you say that, because obviously there was still some connective tissue between these two films, because obviously Margot Robbie was back as so was Joel Kinnaman and Viola Davis. Why waste good casting, as well as Jai Courtney, probably one of his more popular roles in Hollywood. So there was some of that connective tissue, and you can argue that the very basics of the plots are the same. Group of supervillains have to go onto a secret mission with obviously plausible deniability for the US government, and either chances of survival are slim, and if they try to escape, they get their heads blown off.
Yeah, and we even had Idris Elba's Bloodsport have basically the exact same backstory as Will Smith's Deadshot had in the first film, and his motivation was identical. So it was pretty funny to watch that.
Yeah, I think because I think the original plan was to have Idris Elba play Deadshot, then they decided, no, let's leave the door open in case Will Smith ever wants to come back. So hence they changed. So, but I think they just sort of like changed a few details when writing it. At least that first act, anyway.
Yeah.
Because obviously, he had, though obviously his arc was he had to accept his role as the leader of the team.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I think he was really funny.
Yeah, I did like that he kept his natural accent, so he used a lot of Britishisms, didn't he?
Oh yeah, and that was extra fun to have him go up against John Cena, who is playing this very jingoistic American good old boy kind of guy. Just have those two clashing on multiple levels was pretty fun.
Yeah, that's all like that, like one up shit.
Yep.
And I just quite love quoting the line, "I cherish peace with all my heart. I don't care about how many men, women, and children I need to kill to get it."
Yep.
Yes, I think with John Cena, I do like him. I'll admit he's far from a great actor, but I think if you put him in the right role, he is really good. I think they obviously, and I'm sure you've seen all the promotional stuff, like he's been going around on like talk shows in America dressed up as Peacemaker.
Yeah, I mean, for me, John Cena, as you said, is very limited in what he can do as an actor. And he's not as charismatic as someone like The Rock, who made the transition from wrestling to acting. But if you dress him up and make him do something ridiculous, that's when John Cena really shines, because it's such a interesting dichotomy between what John Cena looks like and then this guy who looks like him doing crazy, weird, silly things. Yeah. That's John Cena at his best.
Yeah. And I would say with John Cena, he has very good comic timing, because if you've ever seen the film Blockers, where he played like a dad of a teenage girl trying to potentially stop her having sex, he was very funny in that.
Oh yeah, he's great in that movie.
Yeah, and obviously, I think Margot Robbie had to bring back just because, she's so popular in the role, and I think that was one of the few things Warner Brothers dictated to James Gunn, they had to have her in the film.
Yeah, and I mean, in the grand scheme of the DCEU, the one thing they seem to have finally calibrated correctly is Harley Quinn.
Yeah,
I think they finally figured her out, and so they'd be crazy to not keep using her, since she's really the only connection that we have to other films.
Yeah, exactly. And when we were talking about the Guardians of the Galaxy comparisons, I think the most obvious is King Shark, because he's essentially the Groot of the team.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think I was thinking beforehand, I was going to like Peacemaker and King Shark a lot, because they were obviously highlighted a lot in the trailers. They had some of the funniest moments in the trailer.
Oh, for sure. In terms of like laugh out loud moments, those two by far.
Yeah. The real heart of the team was Ratcatcher, which was, what's it, Daniela Melcia?
I think it's Melchior.
Portuguese actress. It's her first English language role, and I thought she was brilliant. I loved in the film.
I mean, yeah, for me it was the combo of Polka Dot Man and Ratcatcher too, where I expected to not care at all about them, since they're, I think, even below a D-list villain. But gosh, just the heart of the whole movie was those two, and particularly like little Sebastian the rat. I was so worried about a CGI rat.
I know, it's sort of like James Gunn has a gift to make a vermin cute.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, and I think, as I said, she was the heart. I think she was the obviously it's not like she didn't have funny moments, but she was the sort of like the innocent wide-eyed. I think her crime was simply robbing a bank, and it was more a crime out of circumstances than villainy. So hence she's not exactly a true bad guy. It's all more tragic anti-hero, more like.
Yeah, and Polka Dot Man was turned into what he is by his mother, and so I mean, obviously there's a meta element to that, like a boy being turned into who he is by his overbearing mother, but it's another tragic story where he doesn't want to be who he is, and yet he's stuck in this body and has these abilities, and he finally figures out right at the end how to turn it around and use it for good, which is a really interesting arc to give a villain in a silly movie like Suicide Squad.
Yeah, because he was still like that sort of morbidly, pretty much suicidally depressed, wasn't he, for most of the film?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And obviously that was sort of like, I think when you say with Polka Dot Man, his backstory, it's like all of them have had a tragic history of their families. It's obviously Bloodsport and Peacemaker had pretty much the same backstory, that their dads trained them up to be the ultimate fighting machines. Obviously, Ratcatcher, she was because her dad obviously was a drug addict, and he died when she was young. And going to Birds of Prey, obviously Harley Quinn was saying in like that animated introduction that her dad tried to sell her off. So yeah, they've all got screwed up family backgrounds.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
except for King Shark.
Yeah, well, we don't. Yes, again, he's just the group of the team. Or I was going to say, another comparison is it's a bit like the Hulk as well in the Avengers. That's it, because like we basically just when Bloodsport goes, King Shark, nom nom. That's pretty much like the same in the Avengers. Hulk, smash.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, there's what I was going to say, as well as the comparisons with Guardians of the Galaxy, I think there's another film that the Suicide Squad draws a lot of influence from, Deadpool.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because again, very violent, very vibrant action comedies, both of them.
Yeah, and the R rating and not flinching when it comes to not just violence but also language and everything, and it's very much not your parents' idea of DC.
Yeah. In the UK, there was actually a little bit of controversy involving the Suicide Squad rating, because it was rated 15, and like there are people on Twitter going, what does a film need to do to get an 18 rating these days? Because there was obviously a lot of violence. I think the reason it's obviously a few reasons. I think the BFCC are not as stringent as they used to be. Obviously, the violence was sort of semi-comical and sort of so over the top. It's not like going for gruesome realism. And
oh yeah,
and I think as well, I think the basic way is to get an 18 rating is you have to be really, really violent, use the C word a lot, or have lots of sex or nudity.
Yeah, it's definitely not as hard here in the States to get that R rating.
But God forbid if you use 2 F words.
Yep, that's it. That's game over.
Yeah. So yeah. And I going back to the Suicide Squad, I really enjoyed it a lot. I think it's probably one of my favorite films of the year. I on Letterboxd, I've been like tracking all the films I've watched released this year and by UK dates. The only thing that's beaten it is The Father.
Yeah.
Which is obviously a different sort of film.
Yeah, very different.
Yeah. I mean, obviously with Suicide Squad, they made a whole point of like having all these big name actors in the role, but is it a spoiler what we say to happen to quite a lot of them?
Well, I think if you haven't watched Suicide Squad, you should probably turn off the podcast, watch it, and then come back and finish them.
Yeah. So basically, because a lot of those actors get killed off within the first 10-15 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because obviously most of them were used as a distraction for the actual team.
Yeah, and then the film itself starts in media res, where you get a massive bloodbath, and then, hey, this was X amount of days earlier, and everyone's magically alive again, and we get the additional backstory on what happens to the main actors.
I do like, because obviously I like that they did like pick some of the most lamest supervillains possible to, didn't they? I mean, like James Gunn deliberately picked them out. So you had like the detachable kid and the oh God, javelin, which seemingly his superpower is he's very good at using a javelin.
Yeah, Blackguard.
Yeah, I loved Weasel. I thought Weasel was fun.
Oh, Weasel was delightful, and I really enjoyed the surprise at the end that Weasel lives.
I was just like this, sort of like, because you can get the clip off YouTube. It's like them go like, "Is that a dog?" And he goes, "No, it's not a dog. It's a weasel. He's harmless." Well, he's not harmless. He killed 27 children, but it's all like that's all that dark humor, which I really like.
And I have enjoyed that Warner Brothers has had every single one of the actors out there for press. So you had, going into the movie, you would have no idea that, Jay Courtney doesn't make it out of the first 5 minutes of the movie, especially after, Captain Boomerang was the main character in the first Suicide Squad. You'd expect him to just be around.
Yeah, and I mean, whatever you say about this, the original Suicide Squad, I think Jai Courtney was one of the more popular elements from that film as well.
Yeah, and I've always enjoyed him in his various projects, so I was excited to see him, really starting to take off. And then I was very, very shocked that they killed him. I did not see, out of all the deaths, I'm certainly not shocked they killed off Pete Davidson or Michael Rooker's characters, but I was very shocked that Jay got killed off.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, what's going to happen in the future with the Suicide Squad? Because obviously, the film has done very well critically. Fans love it. I think most of the online conversation has been positive, but its box office numbers haven't been so good.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of ties back into like Black Widow and other things that would have been huge tentpole films in a not global pandemic. How much of it is studios are just going to have to write off this summer for what it is, and just say it's popular, people are clearly talking about it, but since you can access it online legally and watch it, we know we're not going to make the money we expected, and decide if they want to give it another go.
Yeah.
But that being said, I don't know how many more Suicide Squads they can have left after burning through so many villains in this one.
I was going to say, for the if they do a next one, the character I would love to see is Snowflake. He's a one-off villain. His power is essentially he gets stronger the more cocaine he snorts.
Why wasn't he in this one? That would have been a hell of a character to use.
Yeah, if I got to write it, that would be one of the characters I would go for. Obviously, there is obviously spin-off material already in the works, though, because obviously they've got the Peacemaker miniseries on HBO. Yeah,
which is going to be interesting considering what happens to him in the film.
Yeah, I think it's a prequel now.
Prequel? I mean, it has to be a prequel.
Yeah. But as I already said, John Cena was a lot of fun in the role.
Oh, yeah, he was a ton of fun.
Yeah. I think as well, with a lot of even the serious characters, or like Rick Flag and Amanda Waller, I think they still use them well for comedy because they obviously are the straight men that sort of have that more deadpan delivery.
Yeah, and I mean, the Amanda Waller stuff is particularly interesting to me because she's clearly has very little moral compass whatsoever from what she's doing and what she's willing to do to achieve her mission. And it was interesting to see that her staff is willing to rise up against her and knock her back and basically take over. So if there is another Suicide Squad, I think that's something they'd have to address as well. Like, how much power does Amanda Waller have now after everything that happened?
Yeah. I was thinking of talk more broadly as well with the DCU, because I think she was just so perfectly cast with Viola Davis.
Oh yeah.
But you would hope that she would that they would bring her back for us other material as well, like if they did another Man of Steel film or something, where because like one of the comic book arcs is Lex Luthor becomes president, and she's a powerful figure in his administration.
Well, yeah, and if you have someone of the caliber of Viola Davis, you need to use her as much as you possibly can, because, I mean, let's be frank, Viola Davis's abilities as an actor far outstrip the world of comic films. So, they should be using her in every opportunity.
I know. She's perfect casting.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I was quite obviously James Gunn as well. He does seem to have a fondness for Doctor Who actors. So obviously Karen Gillan was in Guardians of the Galaxy, and obviously Peter Capaldi was in this one. And his role was actually a lot bigger than I expected it to be.
Yeah, I mean, if I had one criticism about the film, and it's not necessarily Peter Capaldi per se, but I think they could have probably trimmed the good 20 minutes by cutting out all of the political intrigue within the story. Yeah. They didn't need it. It didn't really add anything to the story. They could have literally just had, dictators taking over this made up South American country. We need to get all our information and deal with the crazy giant starfish.
Yeah.
And that could have been the story. And in that case, I think you even get more Peter Capaldi and more of the thinker and all of that. Then we don't have to worry about random trips to presidential palaces and whatnot.
Well, I think they had to do that to give Harley Quinn something to do.
I mean, you don't even need to give Harley Quinn something to do. She could have just been in the bar trying to distract people while they got Gaius out of there.
Yeah, well, this is a case of coulda, woulda, shoulda now.
Yeah.
Oh, it's also quite interesting, like sort of like with King. So jumping a bit here, King Shark. He's like within the last few years, there have been 3 radically different interpretations of the character in media.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously you got the very thick, sort of kind-hearted version. Then you obviously got the sort of the sassy version from the Harley Quinn cartoon. And I haven't seen the Flash version, but obviously I'm guessing here is a much more sinister version, a more intelligent version.
I vaguely remember him from Flash. Yeah, he was not a nice guy.
So yeah, 3 radically different versions of the same character.
Also, who would have thought that King Shark would be the character that suddenly got all these interpretations out of all the DC villains you could pull from?
Yeah. Comics are weird.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So thank you very much, listeners. I think we will call it a wrap on this one. As usual, like, share, subscribe, you know the deal. Follow us on the various social media channels, and take care of yourselves. Cheers. Bye.